Are we trying to get rid of him or are we trying to make him comfortable?
Being down.
I was talking about how I think that Blue stepped into the choreography easy and simple so that she could build up. I don't think that was really what she was capable of that first time. I think she wanted to lean into, yes, I'm a Nepo baby, watch me grow. I don't see Beyonce putting her on stage when she was that green without already knowing she had a little bit more.
I think she
going.
And I'm about to do a thing that you say I do all the time where I just disagree with you for the sake of disagreeing with you. I think, or no, I wonder, I'll put it to you this way. I wonder if she put her on the stage being that green to get the green out the way. Let's just shoot past it because...
But she would not go from that first show to where she was. It was only 3 shows later. That's not happening.
Even with mom being mom and that's the only thing you're doing this summer. You're on tour, you're on...
Still 3 shows is 3 shows. It was like 3 shows in a matter of a couple of weeks, maybe? She had it. She just was like, take it easy, build up. You don't have to give it all in that very first show. Just get the steps. That's what I think. But anyway,
I don't know how you don't have nerves the first show either. Like
that's true.
Nerves are clearly,
of course.
Yeah. Now she may have had it all the way up until that first show and lost it because now we're out here.
I just thought after she started like really getting into it, I saw clips of shows where people are like just yelling out her name and like clapping for her specifically, and her face just being like, "Oh my goodness!"
I mean, this is
really for me.
This girl's had fans before she could talk.
That's true.
Like I still remember the photo of her standing at the balcony looking down. Everybody's like, she's looking at us like peasants because her face is screwed up.
Right. Yes, I remember that. I do remember that. And then there's the Grammys, where she's sitting in between Jay and Beyonce.
Right.
Like, just
relax,
chill out, y'all. Out. It's fine. Right. Calm down.
Yeah. I always go back to with Blue, and I wonder where these folks are now because I feel like they're now hiding in like We Love Blue, when they're talking about her hair and how she looked like Jay and why is she so this and that and blah, which
they know they need to do that girl's hair.
Right. It was,
and I would be like, they clearly do. Now, look at my child, and you could say they know they need to do that girl's hair. But Blue's hair was always done, was always moisturized. It was just out. Just wasn't like teased to death into ponytails.
It's like they wanted her to have the same sew-in that Beyonce had at all times.
At birth.
Right.
Well, it's not that. It's also that black women, we don't really play that hair out thing. It should be puffies, it should be scrunchies, it should be ballies, everything should be a straight part.
I mean, even when she had
they never had that.
Even when she had pigtails or buns, it was still the same.
No. By the time she started doing pigtails and buns, that's when it started to be like, people started to notice like, oh, her hair is really great. But from birth until like 4 or 5, it was just out.
So because
we started to learn that all that tension on a kid's hair isn't necessary, isn't healthy.
And end up looking like me. But so even if that was the case,
I want to know where those people are.
If it was,
I want to look up the comments.
If it was really, why is Beyonce doing that? It's still whack, but I get it more. They were talking about Blue. They were talking bad about Blue specifically. And insulting her.
No, and Beyonce.
No, that's my point. If they were just insulting Beyonce, like, why are you doing this to this girl? That's irresponsible. I don't like that, whatever else. It's not good.
No, they were saying, oof, that girl's not cute.
Right.
Oof, that hair is a mess. Yeah.
And what's funny is,
that very well.
You look at Rumi, because one of the criticisms that Blue looked so much like Jay and what that meant.
Right.
Rumi looks more like Jay.
You think
so?
To
me.
I feel like she looks like B, and even more so like B's mom.
I see a lot
of. I don't see Jay.
There was a photo recently. I think they were at a game, or it might have been the Super Bowl,
Yeah, they're always at the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
together.
so it's Blue, Rumi, and Jay posing together, and I just see Jay's mouth on Rumi. I see all.
Oh, I can kind
Yeah.
of see that. I can kind of see that.
So I think it's one of those.
Rumi is I remember when Obama got elected, and they were on the stage in Chicago for the acceptance thingy, and people were like, "That Sasha is a problem." Like you could just tell. What's the older daughter's name? Malia. Malia was just like standing still, back straight, and of course she's older.
Mm-hmm.
But even still, Sasha was like, we could just tell that she was a Spitfire.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, you see her. We don't know nothing about this girl. Rarely see her, but you can still tell she's got a little extra.
So here's what we do know a little bit about her, because when we found out her friends were snitching on her while she was in college, we were giving them the side eye.
Yep.
And
we were like, y'all need to leave her alone.
And as much as I hated the whole Blue situation, that's why I was really loving us, because like we didn't care what she was doing.
Nope.
I don't know if it was her smoking, whatever it was, drink, whatever it was.
I think she was smoking weed.
And I think it was also at the point, so like, she was just dancing at a party, like whatever it was.
No, that too.
Just basic stuff.
Out there.
And we were all like, your friends ain't shit.
Your friends ain't shit. Ain't shit.
That girl could have been...
We've always been protective.
That girl could have been doing lines in the bathroom, and we have been talking about her friends being awful.
Nope. Also, this is not necessarily right, but I also think we felt that way because she has almost exclusively, as far as what we know, dated black men that we approve of. Like, he's cute and his parents are like,
I don't know who any of who
the Grant Hills of the world.
I don't know who any of the children dated.
I know 2 or 3 people that she had been reportedly dating, and they were all sort of the good guy with a little extra Sasha. And her older sister has been a lot different in that way. But that's what I see about Rumi. Rumi is very Sasha-like to me. She just always seems to have... She will, like, if there's a photo to be taken... Blue, maybe because I don't know, she's older, but Blue is going to hit that Grammy red carpet. And Rumi's going to be like, elbows akimbo, maybe even a little wink. Like, she's something else, that Rumi.
That's like, did you see the photo of Blue looking at Doechii at the Grammys?
No.
The subtext is like she was judging Doechii, because Doechii has the eye patch thing that she wears with the braids and stuff.
I thought that was just a one-time thing. That's really her thing?
That's her thing. I think that's her thing for this album run.
Okay.
Because she's had other looks for her EPs and things like that. Okay. Like this is her first thing. It's much like any artist, they have a different setup situation. Sure. And so Blue has on her gown from the Grammys, and Doechii is like, I guess, sitting, talking to somebody else, and you see Blue like, you really wearing those? That's what we doing? Like,
we better get it together.
I don't know.
Because we don't do that, Blue. You're too famous.
We know we interpret photos where we want to interpret them, and I think it made for a good meme. I don't know if that's what's happening in that moment, but what you were saying about Blue and Rumi just reminded me of that.
I wonder how much Blue knows about, like, the awful things that people were saying about her as a baby. I'm sure she didn't experience them in real time, but does she know now?
I mean, if the girl has Googled herself, she knows. And I guarantee you, at some point, she Googled herself. Just to see. If I was Beyonce, or her parents.
I'd have every single way she could Google anything blocked.
So that's the other thing, too.
Except we can't.
That's the other thing, too. Like, going back to our kids, they have parents who are Googleable. I hate that that's a word. But, like, the youngest can look us up and see what we've written, what we said. There are plenty of videos of both of us. There's plenty of written stuff from both of us.
Not just the youngest.
The podcast, like, all the things. Like, yeah, that's going to be fun. But
I remember asking the oldest about it, and her being like, yep, I've listened to every episode. And me just wanting to die, like, oh God. No, she didn't even say, if she had said every episode, I think I would have been okay with that. Because that means you got a little bit of this.
Right.
She was like, yeah, I heard some things. And I was like, oh God.
And we've talking, oh my God. We've spoken about our children on numerous occasions in all different forms. So yeah, there's no way Blue has looked herself up. And our kids are going to do that as well when they look themselves up or us.
I mean, the middle's about to be 18. I don't think she's ever done that.
Yeah, there's a trail that is distinctive from us. Like, when I put my name into ChatGPT to ask it whatever question, chat knows who I am.
Correct.
When I put your name in there, chat knows who you are.
Correct.
When I ask one of our Google speakers, who is Aliya S. King, who is Aliya S. Neal, depending on what time of day it is. It has
Aliya S. Neal. It's Aliya King Neal.
Aliya King Neal,
S.
excuse me.
King.
Or Aliya S. King. Although I'll give you a third alias in case you need it. You never know, you might have to flee the country.
My passport has my first husband's name on it, so there's that.
But Google will have a response. Mm-hmm. And that's not the case for most people or, most parents.
I remember when I was still teaching or maybe I was substituting, I don't know, but the kids were like, we just Googled you. Like some kid in the back was like, I just Googled you and you did this, this, and this. And I was like, yeah, it's true. And then I remember this kid saying, oh, look, she's got something that made me really official was that, what is it called? A landing page? I don't know. But you Google me, and in addition to this, on the right, it's like a little summary and a photo. That means like there's enough there that we need to summarize it here. Yeah. And I remember thinking, is that really a thing? Like, is that a big deal? Like, I thought that
mine weirdly disappeared. I don't know what happened to mine.
Mine comes and goes.
I think I fell off.
Mine comes and goes because I remember there was an incorrect photo there for like a month, and so I figured out how to get that off.
No, that was your Google image search. That wasn't the sidebar. But yeah, I know yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Either way, I didn't.
It was associating photos from your old blog as being.
Oh, right. Either way, I didn't know that having a summary page.
That's like part of Google. That's like having a wiki.
Was the thing. I don't have a wiki page.
Well, that's the thing. You can't make your own wiki page.
I know. So how come no one's made one for me? Don't you dare.
I wouldn't. Let's pause 1 second because I realized I can't see the screen and I hate to be doing all this and not recording. Ouch. Ooh.
Do I want a wiki page? There was a time, I think, where I wanted one.
I've never intentionally gone to Wikipedia for anything.
Really?
Actually, no, I take that back. That's not true.
I live on that thing.
That's not true.
I mean, I usually go
You know what it is? I've never, Wikipedia.com.
No, but plenty of links will take you there. I love Wikipedia. But, of course, I am a dogged researcher, so I don't take anything there for granted. But the links, what really scares me on Wikipedia now is that we all know, we've all been trained that you don't just go on Wikipedia. Mm-hmm. You look at it, but then you click onto the links and whatever. But now, a lot of times you go to Wikipedia, it says all these things, and it'll tell you this link is where we got it from, but the link is broken. So if you have this whole page of stuff that's telling you this thing, mm-hmm. but none of the links are there to back it up, then what's even the point? Some people's pages just pointless because none of the links that created the page are up and running. We talked about this earlier about how we thought, we don't have to worry about things in print anymore. Right. Everything is on the internet forever. And I have whole bodies of work that no longer exist because
we didn't understand that the internet was in somebody's basement. And it was a server.
We also didn't understand that the internet was scrubbable. So I didn't think there was a world where you mm-hmm. could really get something off the internet. It seemed like that was impossible. But I wrote this story about Diddy's father, and I wrote it for...
I had to go. I was on trying to find this thing.
Don't say those words. Ooh. Remember? Never, ever, ever. Cut that and don't ever say those words again, ever.
I was on nefarious websites looking for that damn thing.
So I wrote the story.
I was on the black web.
And that's funny. It's my husband, ladies and gentlemen. Tip your waiters. I wrote the story. It was on the website, and it was in print.
It was Vibe.
It was Vibe, mm-hmm. And it's gone. And it not being on the Vibe site is like whatever, but nowhere. The only places you can find that story is if someone scanned it and then posted it like that, which I did not. You can't find that story in a link form. So in a link form.
I do want to, and thank goodness they did. What possessed somebody to say, I'm gonna scan this PDF and put it on back on the internet, funny enough.
It's not back on the internet though.
The
Even
PDF?
the scans are not there.
So how'd you get
PDFs
the
are not
scan?
there. They're mine. I literally scanned them myself.
You scanned it? Okay.
I scanned it. And I know
What made you do that?
I just needed it for my clips. Because I was trying to send my clips someplace.
Gotcha.
And I usually send the link. And I couldn't find the link. And I was like, this is weird. So I just had to scan it. There's a couple of stories like that I've scanned the actual story for. Because I couldn't find the link. But that one is particularly gone. And considering I know who the editor-in-chief was at the time the story was written and he can't figure out why it's gone, says a lot about where it went and how it went.
So I think that's the other part that we didn't consider too. When something goes on the internet, especially like for a publication or whatever it is, ownership and responsibility for that changes hands from editor to editor to webmaster, whatever. You know, it may be as simple as we're changing servers and it's too expensive to take all the stuff with us and something gets lost in the sauce.
So then why are there links to every single story in that same exact issue? That wouldn't be the case for just one story in an issue. What you're saying does happen, and it usually means the entire collection is gone. It might mean the whole 1 year is gone, but not one story in one issue. You can find every other story in that issue in link form. You can Google it. You can go to Google Books. Well, they're there.
The conspiracy theorist in me says there's only one answer to that.
That's not a conspiracy theory. That's a fact. There's only one answer to that. And I know, remembering what was going on at that time and how Diddy was not happy about the story and all that stuff, there's no other reason why besides he being able to take it down. There's no other reason why. I can't imagine any other reason why someone would scrub the internet of that particular story, which is inside of an issue where other stories are.
Speaking of Diddy, dun, 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 you know, it's funny. I've been trying my best to not talk about him anywhere as much as possible, just because it's.
Why?
It's too hot right now. It's kind of like your 48-hour rule, where talking about the Orange Man, whatever he's doing,
give it 48 hours.
Give it 48 hours.
That's been working really well for me.
This Diddy situation for me feels like give it
48 years.
Give it 6 months. Give it a year before we really start talking about it.
Yeah.
Because there's still so much conjecture with as much as, and we're starting to learn more and more, and even that is not a huge amount. Just all the things is easier. Just like I'd rather be right in a year than first right now. But one of the things I was thinking about as far as him, and we had these conversations with like the R. Kellys and the other musicians and directors and whoever we've canceled. How do we deal with? Because I can't think of a producer, especially as one as prolific as Diddy, who's had his hand in so much music, including being on the tracks. Like if he was just an artist, he'd be in the R. Kelly camp, and most of us would be done, and we'd move on with it. What do you do with Diddy's musical legacy? With whatever, and again, going back to Kelly, we knew before it was a thing, but now that it's like fully fleshed out in public, what do we do with Diddy's musical legacy as far as consumers?
I had that issue with R. Kelly, big time. I don't know if most people did, but
his writing credits.
No, I just mean like writing, producing, ghostwriting, singing, whatever it is. His tentacles went out further for me and what I listen to than Diddy's does, believe it or not. Like, R. Kelly wrote Fortunate. He wrote Fortunate for Maxwell. And if you listen to it, it's just an R. Kelly song all day. He wrote every song on One in a Million. Like, for me and the type of music I listen to, I went through it with trying to figure out how does this work. And I think that I was able to make that choice, and I was able to scrub R. Kelly from my playlist. I don't know. With Diddy, it's just absolutely impossible. So much so that I think that this whole idea of this person was awful, we're going to stop, that's not going to happen. We're going to slowly stop doing that. We have a lot more people to do a lot of horrible things, and we have a lot more people who had their hands in a lot more music. So at what point
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's horrible in the music industry. Everybody. I had an experience with someone, a rap artist that I still listen to, and it was an experience with me, like something that happened to me. And it was not enough for me to tell anybody. It was not enough for me to feel a way about it. It was just, it was what it was. And this person also has their tentacles in a lot of different places. And I'm like, well, what the hell am I supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? At some point, everyone's going to be exposed because everybody's awful. And you won't have any music to listen to. And I'm not saying that jokingly or facetiously. It really will be like, well, what are we listening to? It's the reason why I couldn't cancel and I haven't canceled Michael Jackson. And I think that his crimes are, first of all, I believe them 100%. And they are just as awful as any of the other things that we're seeing. Anything involving children is. I'm not sure why. I never even wavered. I was never going to stop listening to him, even though I know these horrible things happen. One person I talked to about it said that it's because it goes too far back in our musical experience. You know, you're listening to the Jackson 5 when you're 5, 6, 7 years old. R. Kelly pops out when you're a whole formed person. And so it doesn't connect that same way to you. Like Thriller, Off the Wall, like these are huge, 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 huge moments. And we're young when these things happen. I don't know if that's the reason why I'm not going to stop listening to Michael Jackson. But Diddy is too difficult. But R. Kelly was actually pretty freaking difficult for me.
Yeah, Kelly wasn't super tough for me. I don't know why, because I was definitely a fan that had all the albums or anything else.
I wonder how much R&B music that you love comes from him that you didn't know.
I think I have a better sense than most how far his writing stuff goes. But I think that's also what I'm talking about with Diddy. Like, I think in my head I divorced the writing credits from listening to his voice.
Who, R. Kelly?
Yeah.
Okay. But canceling is canceling. Canceling is not about, you don't cancel his voice, we're canceling the person, which would include everything you did as a musician. We're not canceling the sound of his voice.
I think that's what it is in theory. I don't think that's what it ever ultimately is in reality. I think we all have a slightly different version of what canceled is ultimately, because it's the same reason why
canceling means we don't support you. Period. You're not getting no streams from us. You're not getting no royalties from us. Canceling means cancel. Like, you don't exist. We don't support you. In no way does canceling mean I'm just not going to listen to your voice.
Except nobody's saying I'm not listening to the stuff that he wrote. Nobody's not listening to Maxwell.
They're not canceling.
That's what I'm saying. I understand what the textbook definition of cancel is, but I'm saying in reality,
most people don't.
And with individuals, it's far more blurry than that. And and also, even if it's not, kind of what you were saying before, the effort to align and do a proper cancel, it's a lot of brain space and it's a lot of tiptoeing.
And it's also a lot of things have to be discussed as to what that means. Like, if you're canceling R. Kelly, you know, he did Best of Both Worlds 1 and 2 with Jay. What does that mean?
In hindsight, the fact that it happened a second time is insane.
Yeah, and the tour.
The tour.
Yeah. Something really momentous happened when they were doing the press conference for the second Best of Both Worlds. I think that's when the tape dropped or the charges dropped. Something huge in the whole R. Kelly thing happened the day that they did the press release for Best of Both Worlds 2. I can't remember what it was, but that was sort of the beginning of the...
Except they came out with Not Guilty.
That was from the first one.
That was the first, which still. But by the second one, I mean, it's the Hot 97, they fighting backstage, and they're all running to Angie to tell their side stories. It's a whole...
I was at that show.
Yeah?
Yeah. Because I remember when he said, they're out there right there, they're out there, somebody got a gun right there. Not a gun, a knife. Whatever he was saying, he was pointing. And you know how if you're at a space like that and a spotlight goes up, you can just see like dust.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's never gonna just be clear.
Right.
You're always gonna see something that's in the air.
Mm-hmm.
So the spotlight turned that way, and it was just nothing but like dust, and you could just see these people just sitting there like, what's he talking about? Like there was nothing happening, nothing. And I thought that I was like, I need to get out of here because he could say something that can start some. Can't believe this is Madison Square Garden. But yeah, I remember thinking. I thought it was not made up. I thought it was not a hoax. I thought it was part of the show that he was going to be like, these people, I'm out of here. So he literally runs off the stage.
Like when Daddy Kane pretends to drop the mic.
Exactly. Or
how's that for a way back reference? Anyway.
Or I have a different Big Daddy Kane thing, but he runs off stage. Nothing's happening for like 3 or 4 minutes. Jay comes out and immediately launches into a song off the first album with Mary on it, I think.
Can't Stop the Hustle. Can't Knock the Hustle.
He immediately goes into Can't Knock the Hustle, and he's like, where's she at, y'all? Where's she at? Mary's in the audience, and she comes on down the aisle with her boots and gets up on stage and does her Mary dancing, and I was like,
This wasn't planned.
So you was just here? Now, of course, this was the show. This is Madison Square Garden because everybody was there.
Right.
But still, she was ready to go on stage. And you know me. I am critical of everything. And I got my eye twisted at everything. I was like, you did not just jump on this stage just now. Where's your bodyguards at? How much you getting paid tonight? Like, what are you talking about? How are you even mic'd up properly? But yeah, so people were saying that he had to take over. He had to lean into all the people that were already there for the show to finish out the show. And I was like, that don't sound right to me. But after more of it came out with, the macing, I think it was. Did somebody get maced?
Yeah. Kelly got maced.
By?
Somebody in Jay's camp.
Ty. I want to say it was. Not that matters. Yeah. So he got maced or said he got maced. And... I was talking about, do you cancel that album? Do you cancel Jay?
Well, not TP12. Best of Both Worlds. So first of all, it's
luckily
easy.
they weren't particularly good.
So I was about to say, first of all, it's easy for me to say I'm canceling those because I wasn't listening to them anyway.
No, they weren't great.
Not Guilty is just all, in present context, is just awful.
Wait, did you ever think that you would be this rich? Is that Best of Both Worlds?
Yeah.
That's not
No, that's TP.
Did you ever think
it's one of the TPs.
Don, have a crib, but that's the acre long. Sorry.
Yeah, that's one of the TPs. But I don't listen to those anyway, which is the other side part of like people canceling shit that they didn't really care about anyway. That's whatever. Like if you don't watch the NFL, you didn't cancel the NFL.
No, you did not. But
going back to Diddy, I think because he was producer more than artist, or actually even that's even hard to say at this point. His tentacles...
Take that.
Ugh. His tentacles are underneath the music in a way that a performer's isn't.
It's impossible.
And I actually find out like when like bad boy stuff comes on, unless it's like big, like it hits weird, and when his voice pops up, it does feel weird.
Take that.
But yeah, I'm still going to listen to Ready to Die when the mood strikes me. And that is money that's going into his pocket.
Yes, it is. And then, there's a world where that money that's going into his pocket is going towards his victims. So there's that.
Well, that's what they say about Kelly, too.
Listen to it. Somebody's getting that money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's really... Yeah, I think there's... So, Kelly...
That's like saying buy OJ's book.
You remember the OJ book?
If I did it.
But you couldn't see the if.
That man.
Did you see the styling on the cover? The if was in the shadow.
Yeah.
And it just really said, I did it.
That is...
Woo! The woman who published that book, Judith Reagan, I want to say was the name of her imprint. Strangely enough, she had a tough go in publishing after that.
You don't say.
I really think that she thought she was about to kill it because we had all had such a... I mean, you and I were kind of younger. Hell yeah. And then she had to pulp it. It came out.
All right, because he couldn't profit.
Right. So they pulped it.
Mm-hmm.
You and I were we're not like grown when this is all going on, when the OJ thing happens. I think I'm in college when the verdict
OJ
comes
is in. 90.
94?
It's the summer of 94, so I'm going into my sophomore year of high school.
And I'm going to...
And I'll never forget it because OJ's in the Bronco when the Knicks are playing Houston in the finals.
Oh, right.
And the whole game got preempted. And I'm like...
And not even to watch something good, like people shooting out, just to follow a truck.
Driving 35 miles an hour on the freeway for 3 hours. Oh, my God.
Where's that guy?
Dead.
He is?
OJ? Al Cowling's now. I'm talking about OJ.
OJ's dead?
You joking, right?
Die?
Last year.
Is it before or after seizure number 1?
What seizure?
Mine.
Oh.
Because I truly did not remember that he died.
After. Yeah. Because, he died last year, literally.
Was there a lot of hullabaloo?
Yeah. There's a lot of dancing on his grave and ding dong, the witch is dead situation. Yeah.
What about the funeral?
I don't know anything about the funeral.
Bean just got you right there.
But yeah, he died last year.
It'll come back to me. Something's going to happen. I'm going to be like, of course, I remember.
Yeah.
But anyway, we were a little young to be super invested in it.
That's not true.
No?
No.
Not in the trial. I mean, like, I was going back to the car chase, for example. You would have much rather have been, like, the parents and adults and stuff. The car chase was everything. But for me, I'm like, seriously, we're going to just watch this?
The car chase is how I learned about the case.
Thing. Oh, okay. I knew about the case already. But the car chase, I was just like, I can't believe this is a thing. Can't y'all just, like, let us know? Can we get a crawler? That's actually where crawlers and 24-hour journalism came from. Mm. Because you had to cover that trial all the time. I think it was, I don't know if it was CNN or...
Well, no, CNN predates.
Yeah, but it wasn't on 24 hours.
Yeah, it was. CNN was the first 24-hour news network. That's what made it so revolutionary. Now, the issue was, how do we fill these 24 hours? It's the same thing...
Well, no, I'm talking about a network that wasn't 24 hours until... Maybe it wasn't CNN, but there was some other, maybe Court TV. I don't know. But either way, I don't remember being super duper as invested as my parents.
I think Court TV is born of the OJ.
Probably.
Because people realize, like, oh, y'all will just sit here and watch court cases? Bet, I got you. And then they figure out we'll watch any court case.
Like, literally any court case. Now we're watching paternity tests.
Right.
And only paternity tests.
So.
Why are we talking about OJ?
Canceling and profiting from canceling and enjoying the work of canceled folks.
R. Kelly has been, I'm going to speak in the present tense even though I don't listen to his music at all. He's been my favorite artist since before the first album, since R. Kelly in Public Announcement. I have always...
Now I got Vibe in my
head. He's always been my favorite artist. And I remember having a public debate about who's better or who had better run of albums, Stevie Wonder or R. Kelly. And I was like...
I feel like I need to edit this part out.
So here's the thing. There would have been a time where I would have told you that. But I'm a lot more confident in my music knowledge and my own personal love of music. And I did this, I was in a like panel of sorts and I was like, R. Kelly. And it was just like, get her, set her on fire. And I was like, all right, I'll break it down for you like this. And I broke down album for album, single for single, what you did for other folk, all of it. And you can still not agree with me because it's heresy to be like, Stevie Wonder's not as great as R. Kelly. Stevie Wonder's not as great as R. Kelly.
So this...
And I can support that.
So one of the things that came out during our practice runs of doing this again was your criteria for measuring artists I think it's different than a lot of folks because you talk about moments. And
No,
you talk about
no. The moments was only a specific thing we were talking about.
okay.
For R. Kelly, it's just music,
Mm-hmm.
period, not moments. When we were talking about moments, I was talking about
Drake.
Mm-hmm. Drake is a moments artist. R. Kelly's a musician. So those two things are not the same.
Okay.
And Stevie Wonder is a musician. So when I talk about R. Kelly versus Stevie Wonder, I'm talking about musician versus musician.
Okay.
And I remember talking about this publicly and, people being ready to set me on fire. But afterwards, after the panel and then the next day after, folks were like, I agree with you. I'm not going to do it now, but it's not hard. It's really not hard. People think like you bow down to Stevie Wonder, and you do. And you do. Still the only person to have 3 albums consecutively, album of the year. Probably never going to happen again. So you still bow down to him, but it doesn't take long. By the time you and I are ready to absorb Stevie Wonder in real time, we're talking about I Just Called to Say I Love You.
How much of that is Kelly being a more contemporary artist for us versus...
Sure. So then don't ask me to compare them then. Because of course, part of it is going to be that I go back to 1990 with R. Kelly. But, sure. But the question, I don't pose that question. But the question was posed that, this Stevie versus R. Kelly thing. I think it's because we were talking about canceling R. Kelly. Like, could we, if we find out now...
Careful.
If we find out now that Stevie Wonder is cancelable... Are folks going to cancel?
So that actually had me, you were talking, I was saying about a same vein, but in a bigger sense. If Motown's heyday had 24-hour news media and social media, who survives Motown?
You mean in terms of cancellation?
Yeah.
Or just knowing that you're...
Cancellation. Like those days, like even Motown, music in general, the stories that come out of there that folks don't really dig into because the coverage wasn't the same.
Right.
Rivals a lot of what we talk about with artists now in terms of we're going to cancel them or not cancel them.
Sure. I mean, BC, like people have been awful since people have been people.
Right.
So any time frame, any type of music. But we also, Black folks in that time also did a lot of protecting. There were Motown time. Mm-hmm. There were stories about, like, I was just telling you.
But it was also a lot easier to protect.
It was. But, like, for example, the Rolling Stones. Like, people knew that they were doing some underage stuff with this one and that one. People knew about the groupies who would go on tour and have a baby. Like, the icky stuff was more known outwardly for a lot of rock and roll situations in Motown. But I was telling you recently that Rhonda Ross, I remember my mom talking about how everybody knew who her father was, Berry Gordy, and her not knowing who her father was. Mm-hmm. Like, she talks about how she's a teenager thinking that her dad is this white dude from Norway. And my mom and my Aunt Janet, I remember them watching her on TV like, looking just like Barry. And they're 10,000 miles away in New Jersey, right. Nowhere near the scene. Mm-hmm. But they knew about it. So we did that. And I noticed that a lot of folks, when they do the math on Marvin Gaye, people are really just now in the past 10, 15 years been like, wait, so she was how old? And she was the niece of who now? Mm-hmm. His story is not cute. And he definitely would have been cancelable at that time. But part of the issue, too, is there was a lot of stuff happening in our own families that people weren't getting canceled for.
I mean, you also have, like, Prince in his...
He never did anything wrong.
His wife? Yeah, I know. Yeah. But the access for because the other part, too, is there probably would have been one of your mom's contemporaries that would have been on the rooftop shouting how horrible half of what's going on in Motown was, but they didn't have a tool to do so.
No.
So it's not just like we were protecting, it was harder to not protect them. Like the effort to go, you had to be a reporter, you had to have access to media at that point in time, and write the story and get the story published to do what we do with a click of a mouse now.
But I do think that stuff just carried through word of mouth. Like, there was no reporter talking about Marvin Gaye. There was no reporter talking about Prince. There was no reporter talking about Berry Gordy.
Mm-hmm.
But folks was knowing stuff.
Right, but it's harder. So I guess what I mean
it wasn't public, but folks was knowing stuff.
The person in New York who feels the same way as a person in Miami who also wants to cancel whoever, they didn't have a way to connect and mass and become a mass.
They didn't. Although looking back at old magazines like Ebony and Essence, I've gone through, and for national publications, they had a way of speaking around speaking. Like, I've always thought that the terminology for confirmed bachelor was always interesting. I didn't know until later that just meant we're telling you he's gay without telling you he's gay. Mm-hmm. So we had those sorts of wink and a nod, y'all know what it is. So these things did travel.
That's still the media.
Yeah, that's still the media.
Yeah.
That's still the media. These things did travel, but not as quickly and not as reliably. I mean, I think about my own career and how I had the opportunity to blow up a spot. And as a journalist, there's no question that I should have done it. But as a hip hop journalist, where we still have to protect the very world that we cover, you don't do it. And how I'm sure I've told you a million times about an artist that I was interviewing who was, what's the difference between parole and probation?
Parole comes after jail. Probation is you're generally not going to jail. You just you're under probation.
You don't come out of jail and then be on probation?
You're on parole.
Okay. Whatever the case is, if this person had been caught, a condition of their outness was not using drugs or alcohol, and they were tested, but also just hearing that they were using it, straight back to jail. So I'm in a car with this artist who cannot be around drugs or have any drugs or going back to jail, and the person is doing the drugs thing. And I am there. If I'm there on my way to something else, or the interview's over, or it hasn't even begun yet, I can just put blinders on and say I didn't see it. But my recorder is there in between us. And I'm like, I have a responsibility to put this in this story. But if I do, he's going to jail.
So I think the other part with that too that's tricky for hip hop journalism, it makes you think of more old school sports journalism, is there's a symbiosis that exists.
Yeah, of course.
That doesn't exist with, for lack of a better phrase, straight journalism. Hip hop journalism, sports journalism, in its heyday, required a certain level of access to artists to have these conversations.
Absolutely.
And if the source becomes, Snitchin' Magazine, I'm not doing an interview with them because, one, fuck y'all, you got my man messed up and you might mess me up.
Yep.
Same thing for sports reporters.
Yep.
So you need the artist as much as the artist needs you in that space. So there is a unspoken cooperation.
Yeah, Sports Illustrated just said that they're going to be leaning into what was the term they used? Literally, a couple of weeks ago. They're like, we're going to stop leaning on question and answer journalism, or something that meant access-based. That's what it was. We're going to stop leaning on access-based journalism for our stories. And I was like, so basically you can't get interviews anymore.
Right.
So you got to figure it out.
Well, I mean, you look at ESPN, they've sort of said we're not doing journalism, period, anymore.
It was ESPN that said no more access-based.
ESPN is not doing journalism at all anymore, really. They're opinion-based shows and blah, blah, blah. It's entertainment. It's not journalism anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, and for no other reason, the fact that they have their own gambling website now, it's kind of a wrap on the notion that you're a journalistic space anymore.
Right. Well, I can imagine you can guess whether or not I wrote about the person using drugs or not.
Also, going by the fact that you're calling them the person, I'm assuming not.
I did not.
Yeah.
So, but what I do
Well, what's funny is, because we talk about, I was actually thinking of another story that I thought you were going to tell about, and I don't know how public this is, an artist who was in a relationship with a younger artist at the time you're interviewing them.
Younger as in illegal younger?
Either
Scandalous younger?
I don't know if it was scandalous younger or illegal younger at the point. I don't want to say a whole lot more about that, except that you're in the room and the other person pops up.
Huh. This is what I mean about 51 and stories like...
You know what people love? Just watching people go through their memory banks trying to remember what the hell. I mean, it's neither here nor there, but I thought you were actually going to tell the different story. And I only say that because it kind of goes to how much the picking and choosing had to happen even in journalism because, again, of that symbiosis.
I also know that if I had told my editor what I saw, I would have had to put it in. And
I would almost think, I was surprised. I would have thought the opposite.
But they would say, don't put it in?
Yeah.
Nah. They would have made me put it in. Jail or no. And I have to say, though, it's this specific editor-in-chief.
Mm-hmm.
The one before, the one after?
Nah.
Maybe not. But this particular one would have been like, you fired if you don't put that in there.
Mm.
Actually, nope, that's not true. Because the symbiotic relationship with that person's label would have had to have been protected.
Right.
But yeah. So I'm not sure. But I chose not to mention it.
And to be clear, this is not a small artist.
No, it's the biggest artist at that time. The person ended up going to jail anyway for drug use, but it was done not from a reporter, but from just their regular check-in drug test. So part of my mind was like, well, shit, you could if that was going to happen anyway, you could have just wrote about it.
Except it still needed to happen that way.
It needed to happen that way. But why though?
Because of the relationship.
Well, that didn't. The relationship wasn't on me. It was on my bosses. I'm just a little worker bee writing the story. So if they wanted to, they could have taken it out.
I feel like that's one of those things where, and you know me and my sports stuff, when the team isn't doing well, they look at the player, not the GM. So in that space, they'd have been looking at you as a writer.
Who would have? If they let it be published?
The reader. The reading public would have been looking at you.
We didn't even matter. Nobody even paid attention. Those stories just came out of just dust. No one paid attention to writers then or now, actually, unless for whatever reason that was what you were into.
And I think that'd been one of the situations where who was a writer would suddenly have become more prevalent. It suddenly would become a thing. Who wrote this?
No, not in the 90s. I mean, I remember when the East versus West thing happened, with Vibe and the young man they got to write the Biggie Puff story where they said all the incendiary things. Nobody cared. No one cared about who actually wrote the story, like who was interviewing them. And within that world, we were all kind of like side-eyeing the editors of Vibe at that time because they chose someone who was very inexperienced to write the story. And he was barely out of his teens. He's working at the site. Maybe he was interning. I'm not even sure. He might have been working security. He came out of working security, but I don't know if he was or not. Either way, they got him to do the story. And we all knew why. We all knew that let's send him to do the story. We don't want to send someone that big and puff. No. Or that can become a thing. Somebody that you hear about and you think of Vibe. No. Let's just send someone over who is going to possibly blend in to get them to say all the things. And that's exactly what happened. He sat there in the cut. He's from Brooklyn, all the things. And years later, I interviewed him for the book about hip hop journalism. And he talks about like, I did not see myself as being used at that time. But now I realize that there was a reason why they sent me to go get that story. Because I was going to just record what they said and write the story. I wasn't going to think, maybe I shouldn't put East versus West. That sounds a little... No, he wasn't deep into it enough for that. So, I mean, that actually supports what you're saying about don't bother with the writer. These are writers who were like, I'm not going to have my name on this. So let's just, let's let him do it. The one and only Larry Hester, also known as the Black Spot. Yeah, they had him write that story. They got all the crazy quotes. And they asked him, Puff said, whatever you do not write East versus West on this cover. We told y'all all the good stuff. We're saying all the things. Don't put that on the cover.
Mm.
It was on the cover.
All right, so give me the elevator pitch version of what 6 seconds is.
Okay, so we talked about wanting to have some portions of Good Talk to be intentional and things we give some thought to prior to filming. And I thought of a song of the week and making sure that means in any way, something you listen to on repeat, something you just heard once and forgot how much you loved it, etc. So then I was thinking about my song and I thought it would be awesome if we could just play a bit in post. And I asked you how much of a song can we play without getting into rights issues, and you said about 6 seconds, and that just kind of stirred in my head. 6 seconds, 6 seconds, and I was like, but 6 seconds is such a short amount of time. I didn't say that out loud. I was thinking it, and then you were like, and you don't really need more than 6 seconds to get a point across about a particular song. I was like, he's right. So I thought, 6 seconds. We'll talk about a song that had an impact on us in some way, and we'll play 6 seconds of it.
Okay. And who's going first?
You.
Okay. So my song is Trying People by De La Soul.
Throughout my change to grow, some of my people got left behind. They didn't listen for the gun as I leap from off the line. 13 years deep in this marathon I'm running.
It's off of the Bionics album. And I remember when the song first came out, it hit me in a specific way, but I was too young at the time to get all the layers of it. At the time the song comes out, like, my best friends are my best friends. We talk all the time. I'm not married yet, but I'm in a relationship that's heading that way. Like, I'm on the upside of what the song is talking about. But as I got older, the song would pop up and it would resonate with me more and more. There's a part where Pa says, talking about his old friendships, we're supposed to rid the world of danger. Now we nod and small talk like polite strangers. And that was like, yeah. And there's another part where he's talking about his relationship with I don't know if it's his wife or girlfriend at the time or whatever, but like that being on the verge of crapping out for all the reasons, and I'm either separated or fully divorced at whatever points I'm listening to the song. It's like, and I would have it on repeat at certain points because it spoke to me in that way. There's also the fact that I miss Dave a lot, and I hate how the Tommy Boy streaming situation played out, and the fact that he never really got to see it hit the streaming and folks be excited and embrace it the way that we've been wanting to for a year. Like, we've been asking for De La to be available forever. And to finally get there and Dave not be there still is like, that, damn, it sucks. The coin is a coin, and I'm assuming that the coin is now going to where it needs to go. But still, and also, segue, Dave is also another one of those, like, my hip hop icons who don't see 65, which seems like it's happening.
Or 55?
Or 55. I'm being generous, and it seems to feel like it's happening more and more. So Trying People, and I explained it popped up again this week, either on YouTube or I was listening somewhere. But yeah, Trying People. If you are, I think I was saying this before, there's a part of me that likes sad rap. And I know you say
like
sad music in general. So it also hits me in that space. If you are in a mood this week and you are a middle-aged person who is a hip-hop head, Trying People is the song.
If you want to feel away.
If you're already feeling away. And
well, actually, one could say that if you are feeling away, Trying People is not the song. Unless you really do want to just dig into it and live in that space.
Yeah.
The way you do every single morning. Like, I don't know anyone who is listening to Nina Simone at 8 o'clock in the morning as they're driving their kids to school.
I don't start off with as much energy as you. You start here.
I don't know if it's an energy thing. I think it's just what you like. Like, I remember seeing one of your public Spotify playlists either before we actually met or soon after. And I was like, is he like clinically depressed? Because this playlist is insanely sad. Just insanely sad.
Well, that's why I would say Spotify Wrapped should be handed over to
Your therapist?
Our therapist every year.
Absolutely.
Because that will tell you everything. I can see myself in my Wrapped the year before my wife and I split, the 2 or 3 years after that, right up to you and how it starts to shift, and when it is a year into you, like it's a barometer, boy. It tells you a lot. I think there should be a Wrapped every month, just submitted to healthcare professionals. Are you okay?
A Wrapped every month.
And that you don't even have access to. It just goes to your healthcare professionals.
Well, one thing that you can do on Spotify that I never really paid attention to was you can see what you listen to. Like, you can find a list of everything you listened to in the past, like, day. Did you know that?
No.
When we were doing this 6 seconds, I was trying to figure out the name of the song that sampled it, and I couldn't remember. And then I clicked into some place on Spotify. I'll show you later.
Oh, the recently played situation?
I guess recently played?
Yeah.
I didn't know recently played went as far back as it does. It goes back quite a ways. It's kind of like Amazon and things you recently looked at. But yeah, when I know the Trying People song, but it's one of those songs where you know it, but you never really locked in. And for me, my relationship with De La is the exact opposite of yours. By the time we get to this album, I'm kind of checked out. I'm very much Stakes is High, Daisy Age.
Right.
Did you know that the early heyday of De La Soul, young folks would wear a daisy behind their ear to illustrate that they were going to go see them?
Which is funny because the daisy thing was never about the flower for them.
It was never about the flower. And that's where De La Soul's Dead comes from, and we get it. But you know what? People love you. So just go with it. I think for me, my De La-ism starts at Balloon Mind State and goes from there. I'm done by then. I mean, still love them, still listening, but like first 3 albums maybe. I'm in high school.
The Prince Paul era.
I'm in high school. My best friend Paul listens to De La. My boyfriend at the time listens to De La, so I just have it in me by osmosis. So much so that, well, I'll tell you that when I tell you my 6 second song. But also because I met them a few times, I wrote a few stories on them, and although for the most part my personal, more professional run-ins with artists are usually pretty separate from how I feel about their music, for De La it isn't. For some reason, like when I hear their music, I instantly think about them, as in who they are as people. And not necessarily known as like laid back, fun, friendly folks. I guess I can say that.
Well, I guess that's what it is, because the Daisy Age is that. It's fun, it's lighter.
Right, but they were never that in real life.
Right, so maybe it's that dichotomy that makes you think of them.
Right, that might be it.
Because you're listening to Me, Myself, and I.
Right, yeah, but that's partially it. But anyway, this particular song, when I talk about how I learned that it's not just that you listen to sad rap, you listen to sad music, and then there's music that makes you feel mellow or makes you feel like pontificating on things, and there's music that's just sad. There's an underbelly of all of that, which is like old trauma beat. No, not just old, just like trauma music. Like music that tells a story of pure trauma. Music that doesn't have like the Trying People still has a hopeful lilt to it. It's looking back, you know, thinking about the future, but there's a hopefulness and a spiritness in it that says we'll be okay. But some of the music you listen to is just like, she killed my dog and kept running.
If I was my grandparents' age, the blues would have been my bag 100%.
Right.
I'd have had a steel.
The blues are your bag.
I'd have had a steel.
Different form of it.
I'd have had a sliding guitar.
R&B is rhythm and blues.
Right.
And you just are more on the blues side of the R&B than the rhythm side.
All right, your turn.
Okay. My song is called If. It's by Destiny's Child. From their last album together called Destiny Fulfilled. And I just discovered it a couple months ago. I was at my sister's house.
Discovered or rediscovered?
Discovered. I didn't know this song existed. And I know people are going to be like, what kind of fan are you? But I did not know this song at all until a couple months ago. My sister was playing the Destiny Fulfilled album. And the singles are like Soldier, which was ubiquitous, and Girl, which has one of the best videos ever. And just like heavy hitting, like 5 singles. So for me, a singles girly, once I hear 5 singles, it's usually not more than 5 unless you're Janet Jackson with Rhythm Nation in 1989. 5 singles is a lot to get off an album, especially if they're all really good, which they were.
I thought we got like 3 years of music videos from Rhythm Nation. But anyway, I'm sorry.
No, we did. I always remember that because I remember at the prom, my senior year in prom, Rhythm Nation is popping, all the songs. I get to college a year later,
it's still going,
and they're still dropping singles. Yeah, it was a whole like year and a half of singles off that album. It was crazy, and they all got proper videos. It was also mentionable because it was the first time she actually showed her body ever.
Sorry, I'm sick.
Sorry. So, see, this is what.
Right, because I was about to bring up Velvet Rope, and I'm not going to do that now.
The album?
Yeah, talking about showing her body. Anywho.
So a couple of months ago, I was at my sister's house, and she was playing Destiny's Child's last album, Destiny Fulfilled. And there were a bunch of singles that were really good, that were getting a lot of play on the radio. And I'm a singles girl, so once I hear 5 great singles, I assume there's not a lot. Everything else is filler. So I don't think I ever actually sat down and listened to that album. Because after that, Beyonce's here. So I'm really not ever really going back. I'm sorry, Kelly and Michelle. So she plays this song. It's based on Inseparable by Natalie Cole, one of my favorite albums coming up. The first vinyl album I actually had in my room to play, that my dad gave me from his own personal collection. It was very, you have got to get your own. And I love that album. So it's Inseparable is the loop sample, and it's quintessential old school R&B, and it's quintessential old school Destiny's Child. Beyonce has a little talk section there, and she's got her very thick Texas accent, which will go away over time. She's talking about heifers, which I think is just one of the best insults you could ever say to a woman. And I think heifer is gone now. I don't think people are saying this nasty ass heifer. I'm not saying it. I know to be offended if somebody said to me, but I think heifer is gone.
Yeah.
But Destiny's Child, they were saying heifer still. And the music, there's just so many things happening in that one song. You've got it's kind of the arc of me loving music. It's got this very clear sample of Natalie Cole, of all folks. I'm a sucker for a girl group of all kinds, and this is the end of one of the biggest. Like, we don't have girl groups anymore. That's not a thing.
We don't really have groups anymore.
We don't have groups, period. But we particularly don't have girl groups doing dances and formation and etc. I meant to look up who wrote the song because it's I don't know what year it is, but it feels very Rodney Jerkins, maybe. I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, I was surprised that I had not ever heard the song. And it comes up often. And I haven't gotten tired of it. And I can get tired of music, particularly when I play it over and over and over.
I can attest that you actually don't. That takes some time.
It does take time.
Yeah.
And some songs just never, ever, ever. Brandy, Never Say Never, I have to apologize to my child regularly because that song is probably why she doesn't fuck with R&B right now.
You apologize for the Carters for a good minute, too.
Yeah. The Carters that's a small amount of time. Mm-hmm. For me, that's a small amount of time. However many 2-3 months that was. Normally, I get my hooks in and it's going to be a problem.
So that was... is that pandemic times?
No, it's pre-pandemic.
It's okay.
Because I remember someone telling me to listen to it.
Well, our pre-pandemic time was 3 weeks into the pandemic. So I imagine some of the apology was because...
It was months.
I'm being facetious.
Oh, okay. It was like 8 months. For us, that's a long time. We met in June or July, and the pandemic was the following February, March. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was in my head. It reminds me of my dad, and rest in peace. Don't have a lot. We weren't that kind of father-daughter situation. I wasn't like a daddy's girl. We didn't have a lot in common. He was really strict, but so I really appreciate these moments that we had, and that particular album is one of them.
Why did he give you the album? Do you know? Did you ask for it, or was it just something he handed you?
No, I had gotten this stereo, 2 tape decks, vinyl, radio for my birthday. So I would have been turning 13 for my 13th birthday. And I didn't have any vinyl. I had plenty of tapes, so that was easy, but that wasn't the sexy thing. The sexy thing was the vinyl. I didn't have any. So I bopped down to the basement where my dad had all his vinyl. I was like, I need something to listen to on my record player. And he's like, are you going to be careful with it? Because if you put it down like this, I'm like, I'm ready. And so I'm wondering, I don't know if I picked it out or if he picked it out for me. I think I picked out some things and he was like, no, too. Because he offered me The Wiz first, the soundtrack to The Wiz. And I didn't want it because the cover was scary. Do you remember the cover of The Wiz? It was like...
I remember The Wiz.
This artwork.
The Wiz was kind of scary.
It was so frightening.
As was The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, The Wiz was frightening her.
I don't know about Wicked to speak on Wicked, but those two
scary.
Are flying monkeys. I checked. You got me.
Right in this spot, right here. Pull up the cover of the Wiz album, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's just a beautiful painting I get now, but at 13, I was just like, this is not. I don't want to. I don't want this. And if you compare it to right now, drop the album cover of Inseparable by Natalie Cole, and she's like,
is this it?
No, that's definitely not it.
I have to find the original.
It's not the soundtrack, it's the score.
Oh.
And Natalie Cole, she's got like this beautiful haircut, and it's like sparkles everywhere, and it's great. Oh, that just reminded me. He gave me Natalie Cole, and then later he gave me the soundtrack to Sparkle, the movie, which was all Aretha Franklin. Good
movie too. I
never saw the movie, but I did listen to the record. That's gonna get me in trouble one of these days.
All the things you haven't seen?
Yeah, all the things I reported on that I haven't seen.
That's a different story.
Yeah, so between Natalie Cole